Citizens of the world, welcome back to another Keep Yours podcast where we try and keep a few more dollars in your wallet. Today we continue to talk about the CARES Act, what it's going to do to help us, and what our decision making should be around it. So a lot of the questions that I've seen over the past week have been, what do I do? I have some different options here. We have this PPP, Payment Protection Loan, that I can get that can be forgiven. I can get an Economic Income Disaster Relief Loan, the EIDL SBA loan, which the first $10,000 can be forgiven, or I can put people on unemployment. So as a business, what is my strategy? As a business owner, what is my strategy? And the answer, of course, is it depends. And a lot of it depends on the things that we don't know. But here's the basic premise of what the government is trying to do in one way, shape, or form. They're saying, hey, if there's a business that's viable, that's going to keep going, that's not superbly impacted, is what I'm going to say. We're all impacted. The question is, how much? You know, you could say, well, hospitals' revenue isn't impacted. Yeah, but their doctors and nurses are about to be worn out. And what's their availability to give treatment to everybody else who needs it on a normal basis going forward? Grocery stores might see a huge surplus of revenue today. But after this is over, is everybody tired of eating at home and going to go out? Nobody knows. So everyone's affected. And all of those businesses that currently are doing lots of extra business, everyone's incurring additional costs. So the grocery store is hiring more people, trying to keep produce on the shelves. We're all trying to keep things more sanitized and washing things constantly. So there's no one unaffected. So the question is if you're a business owner, what's the best option for you, and how do these things work, and what's the time periods with them? So we're going to start with the PPP loan. So if you're eligible, you're a small business, less than 500 employees, then basically the government is going to give you money to cover operations for 2 months. So the idea is you pay salaries for April and May, and the government will forgive those amounts. And the reason they're going to give you 2.5 times what your payroll is because you're going to use the other half portion to pay for rent, to pay interest on any obligations you may have, to pay utilities, to pay all of the things that basically you may not be getting a benefit of because you have to pay, even though you might be shut down by government order. The businesses that will benefit most from this are the businesses that are still in business. So if you're still in business today, you've kept all of your employees or most all of your employees, this is a really good program for you because it allows you to get a little extra capital. And make no mistake, the government realizes this, and this is their intent. In some respects, this will make a strong business in a core market stronger and more likely to last after this is over. But what about if we're in a business that, has been really hurt for this? Well, then the PPP loan isn't for you if you run a retail shop, because retail is going to take longer to come back for multiple reasons. One, you have social distancing. So currently stores are closed. Then we'll have social distancing. And three, a lot more people will be on unemployment, which means there's fewer customers. So if I run a retail shop and I've laid everybody off, then the EIDL $10,000 grant, probably my better bet short term, put everybody on unemployment as well. That can work for some businesses. If you're in travel and hospitality, then again, it's going to be a much longer. How long are we in social distancing? What's the impact? We don't know. So if you've already laid everybody off, to bring them back, to pay them for 2 months, to lay them off again, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So again, the EIDL loan, at least the first 10,000 of it, might make sense. Probably does, because the first 10,000's effectively free money, so you might as well go apply for that. What the government's saying is you can get forgiveness on the left hand with the PPL, or you can get it on the right hand with the EIDL. But we're not going to give you that same 10,000 across both places. So if you've already, and this is part of the problem with processing loans right now. Well, who's applied for the EIDL loan? Who's been given $10,000 that's going to be forgiven? Well, those same people can't apply over here for the PPP loan, or we have to acknowledge they did, and any money they're going to be forgiven has to subtract out that $10,000 that we already gave them. How do we track that? No one's set up to track something like this right now, so it doesn't exist. So this is part of the delay in getting loans out the door. All right, so I'm a business owner. How do I make these decisions? So I put together this quickly. Obviously, it's not in a pretty PowerPoint format or anything else, but we're trying to get shit done right now. We're trying to make decisions. So what are we doing the decisions based off of? We got our options. We have basically 3 options. So PPP loans, 2.5x average payroll, and I will get into that in detail. I'm going to do another podcast right after this for if you're doing PPP based off all the info that I've done, been through, gotten back from banks, all the back and forth for what you're going to need to know. So here's what you can use it for: rent, utilities, payroll, interest expense. It'll be forgiven if you've kept all your employees, not indefinitely, for the 8 weeks after you get your loan. So the game is, you get your loan, you got to have the same number of people now as you did a year ago, and those amounts that you pay are forgiven. This is really good for everybody who's still operating. It's pretty good for businesses that expect to rebound quickly. So my dentist has laid off his whole entire staff because they're not working. So for him, this is perfect. Go get a PPP loan, keep all of his staff on board. In 2 months, once people are still going to have tooth problems, people still got to get their teeth cleaned. This will continue. His business will rebound quickly. So this loan makes sense for him. It will also make sense for similar people. So if you're a auto mechanic, well, people aren't driving right now, so they're reluctant to get their car done. But people will be driving again in the future. Most of your business should come back, might be slower. And this becomes the question: which business is it good for? And I can't make a decision for every business, so I'm trying to give business owners some info, some general information. You have to decide on your own. If you're a landscaping company, businesses might say, hey, we don't need anything right now because who cares? But in a month when people are back in an office, then they go, well, now we need the landscaping. Or if you're doing office cleaning right now. And in fact, your office cleaning business probably goes up a little bit because now you're going to be asked to sterilize a whole lot more places of the business that wouldn't have been before. We're going to clean door handles a lot more frequently. We're going to try and keep all sorts of more areas sanitized that we share to try and prevent spread going forward. Who is this maybe not so good for? So if you're running something that's shut down and going to be shut down for a while, and then social distancing is going to make that business difficult to come back, I wouldn't recommend a PPL loan for you because it's going to be hard to keep your employees. And there's nothing for them to do for the next 2 months. Retail is going to get destroyed for, again, multiple reasons. But you're going to have fewer customers. The social distancing is going to prevent people from wanting to go out. There will be high-end, probably does okay, because high-end people aren't nearly as affected by unemployment amounts and other things. So if you're catering to the wealthy, probably comes back. There's probably a lot of women hankering to get out and get themselves some new clothing. But again, the other side of this, events are going to be difficult to come by. If we have social distancing, then the champagne cork popping is over for a while because we can't get together. So we're talking about no concerts, no sporting events, no shows, basically, no bar mitzvahs, no weddings that have more than 10 people. So everything just got shrunk. So if you're a caterer, your business isn't going to likely come back quickly. If you're involved in travel and hospitality, it's not going to be next month and all of a sudden they lift restrictions and everybody's ready to go get back on a plane and fly around and spend money like they used to. If you're working in a casino, you're not eligible for these anyway. But if you work with a casino, so say your business supports a casino, well, you're going to see a much slower turn back as it's not going to be the way that it was 2 months ago. So you might be more hesitant to take on these loans, keep staff, than you would be if you're, somebody who's in a more required service, such as food, healthcare, and maintenance. Those are things that we have to keep doing. The roofing company is still going to have to redo roofs this year. There's still going to be people going to the doctor's office for normal sickness. Now, maybe we'll actually see a turn down in regular sickness because we're all preventing spread of COVID. Maybe we're preventing the spread of a whole lot of other things. But people will continue to hurt themselves. People will need bones fixed. People will continue to blow out their ACLs and need repair. So some of that may slow down, but for the most part, that probably comes back. And we'll have all of the stacked up things because no one's doing surgeries right now. So if you're an orthopedic surgeon, odds are your business comes back really quickly. Odds are if you run a movie theater, might be a while. What's the social distancing rules? How many people can you have in there? Who's excited to go see a movie right now? It becomes much more questionable. And those people have already laid off most of their staff. So your other option is an economic income disaster relief loan. So the first 10,000 of which can be forgiven. But unlike the PPP loans, which will be forgiven for the most part, okay, this will be forgiven if you keep all of your employees and you pay them and you pay your rent. The amount you spent out of that, that's basically going to be, we're calling it a loan. It's not really a loan. It's really the government saying we're going to pay your expenses for 2 months and hoping that the economy is opened up after that. So your other option is an EIDL loan from the SBA. Now, the PPP loans are going to come from banks. While it's an SBA program, the SBA does not have nearly enough people to do what they're being asked to do. So the banks are going to get this. So if you're running an economic income disaster relief loan, you're going to be waiting on the SBA. This is going to take a while, but this may be a good option for you because you can borrow the money for all sorts of different things to collect from. So that's important. And that's $10,000. So what may be the right decision is you say, hey, wait, we've laid off most of our staff. Let's go get 10 grand. That'll help us. Maybe it helps us pay rent. We can also get an additional loan amount, but that's a loan and you're going to have to pay that back. And if it means that you can stay in business and you see your business coming back, hey, that might be a good thing for you to do. If you're going to take out a bunch more debt and that makes it less likely your business will survive, that's a very difficult decision. There's a bunch of business owners in this tough spot of what do I do? What you do for these programs is in large part, we're trying to make decisions with so much uncertainty. None of us know how long quarantine is going to last. None of us know what the echo effect of COVID-19 is going to do for our business. None of us know what social distancing rules will be for the next 6 months, year, 2 years. We just don't know. So with that uncertainty, we have to make our best decision that we can. So that economic income disaster relief loan, if the PPP loan isn't for you, if you're in one of these sectors that's going to be really affected by social distancing, then the EIDL loan might be right to help you and might be the easiest way for you to get 10 grand for free. So that 10 grand is, hey, you could still pay rent with that for a little bit. But if you're not carrying the wages, you're not carrying the employees, PPP loan's probably not for you. The other option in here is unemployment. And the other thing that we have to consider with all of this, so now if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, now you're going, what is the best thing for me to do? I'm eligible for unemployment. And here's the hook with unemployment. So if they're going to give you an extra $600 a month, but that only runs for basically the next 4 months. So you have to decide, either I get the extra $2,400 a month, which comes close to basically $10,000 from unemployment. Now, you can get the unemployment and the EIDL money, no problem. So if you're self-employed and, sorry, don't know why my printer just decided it needed to turn on. Sorry about that noise. If you're self-employed and you have your own little business, you have this very interesting piece right now where you can get an extra $2,400 a month from unemployment, even if the rest of your unemployment money is very small. So let's say you made $10,000 last year on your Schedule C. Then your state's going to say, okay, $10,000, break that down per month. That's about $800 per month. You're eligible for 60% of that through the state. So you're eligible for $480 per month from the state, plus $2,400 from the federal government. That's pretty good. Also, you're eligible for $10,000 from the Economic Income Disaster Relief Loan because you can't operate your business right now. And that's forgivable. So I would go, maybe I want this piece and this piece. And those two together might be pretty good for me. Or because you go, I could go get the PPP loan that's going to give me 2.5 months of wages, and that's going to be forgiven. And then when I'm done with that, I'll put myself on unemployment and collect that. You'll maybe get partially unemployment. But even if you keep people for the 8 weeks after you get your loan, So assuming you can get your loan in, let's just say by the end of April, because I think that's a pretty conservative estimate. If I see money start flowing out in a lot of ways before that, I'll be surprised, especially to independent contractors. So we went through the business owner kind of decision of what you do. Now, if you're the independent contractor, what do I do? And you go, well, I could take PPP loans. Let's just say you have a nice small business that's just you. You made you're at the $100,000 limit. So basically, you can get $16,000. 1/12 of your 100 grand is roughly $8,300 times 2.5. So you can get about 20 grand from PPL that you can use to pay yourself. Or that's the max, right? And if you made that much, then that's probably your best option. If your income's that high, that's 20 grand. That's going to be basically the same as I can get 10 grand from an EIDL loan and an extra $2,400 a month from unemployment. So how do I mix these things together to make it the right package for me? Well, it depends on your income levels. So if you're making 100 grand a year, then look, it's almost the same. I can get 2.5 months from PPL, which works out to about 20 grand, or I can get 10 grand from the EIDL number, combine that with an extra 10 grand from unemployment. Now, I might be able to get PPP and then go 2 months and maybe get a month of the unemployment. Because again, it stops right here at 731, right? And that's not from me making some stuff up. That's straight out of the CARES Act right here. And all of these documents are available on the show notes, and it'll leave the bookmarks in it so you can go see. So this is the part of the actual act that says who can get money and how long can they get it. So part of this is the additional $600. And then right down here it says, how long does that go? Ends July 31st. So any unemployment claims 4 weeks up to July 31st, you're good. So let's say you get your PPP loan. Let's just say you get it at the end of April. Well, you have to use that to pay yourself over the next 60 days. So that's May and June, and then you would only be eligible for unemployment benefits for July. So if you get your PPP, then you put yourself on unemployment. That's kind of the maximum amount, and would be a decent strategy if you're self-employed and it's just you. And obviously you continue to pay yourself. So where are the income limits that all of a sudden, how does this decision making go? Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you make more than 5K a month, then PPP is probably the right decision. So if you're making 100 grand, then you can get 20 grand out of the PPP. Now here's the thing. If you're self-employed, and let's say you work out of your home that you own, well, you're only going to be able to forgive yourself be forgiven about $16,000, because while they'll give you 2.5, you can use that to pay utilities that you might pay, your phone bill, but you're not paying rent because you live there. So unless you're charging your company rent, but that would have had to be in place and you would have been doing these things for a long time. So if you don't rent any space and you hadn't before February 15th, then it doesn't help. But it just limits it. So it's going to limit the amount of forgiveness. So it's just something to think about when we talk about how much are we really going to be forgiven by the government? How much can we get? So if you make more than $5,000 a month on average, which means that if you're a 1099 person, if you're a Schedule C person, it means that the bottom number of that is 60 grand, or the bottom number your Schedule C, the very bottom net income number you pay tax on. And then you get to add back a couple things. If you paid your health insurance, you get to add some of that back in. If you paid unemployment, which you probably didn't, and if you paid anything into a retirement plan. So you can go, what the bottom line of my Schedule C is, plus what I paid in healthcare benefits for myself, plus what I paid in retirement benefits for myself. So if that number is more than $60,000 a year, which will work out to $5,000 a month, then PPP is probably a better decision for you. If that number is less than that, so if I have $5,000 a month and I go 2.5 times the PPP, I'm going to get $10,500. I got to pay myself for 2 months. At best, I get another $2,400 out of unemployment if I have nothing to do in July. About the same, 12.5. So this is the breakover period. If I make less than that, though, then all of a sudden PPP doesn't look so good for me because I can go get $10,000 for free on EIDL, and I can put myself on unemployment after that and get potentially up to $4,000 a month. At least the $2,400 extra the government's getting. $2,400 extra for 4 months, 10 grand. That's extra. 10 grand from EIDL, that's 20. That's a good chunk of change. So that might be my strategy if I make less. So the most I can kind of get is 20. And if I pay myself, if I made 100 grand, I can get about 20. So there's a reason these numbers go together, because this is exactly what they kind of want you to do, is go, what makes the most sense? Now, what's the easiest? The easiest, who knows? I can't tell you what the easiest path to be. Unemployment, certainly going to be the easier path going forward. Going to take you a while to get in because the systems aren't set up. But what decision you choose for yourself, do the math. And here's the math for you, right? 10 grand from EIDL plus potentially, this is $2,400 a month. So if I do $2,400, this is the extra money. I get extra $2,400 a month. But also I get whatever the state will give me. So let's just say I was self-employed. I did make 100 grand a year, and now I can't work. I'm eligible for unemployment benefits. So in Colorado, that means I'm going to get about $4,000 a month with the additional $600. Okay, so in total, I'm going to get 16 grand from unemployment. But this only works if you're not making money. And you can't lie about not making money because they will come back and get you. So if you're not making any money and you made 100 grand last year, all of a sudden we went, oh, well, I can get 10 grand for my EDL plus 4 months at 4 grand, 16 grand, my total is 26. But if you're still working, PPP makes a lot more sense because that's going to get you, you can't get the unemployment money if you're not working. So if you're working, then PPP is probably your best bet unless you don't make very much, and then maybe it's EIDL, right? So this is very complicated. In part, I just feel like I just made it even more complicated, but hopefully you get an idea about what the maximum amounts are. And if you're still working, you're not eligible for unemployment, or you're eligible for a partial. So if you're still working, PPP is probably the right thing for you. If you're not working, now I got a different decision. What's the math say? I can get PPP, and now I'm paying myself wages, so effectively I'm working. Is that more money than EIDL for 10 grand plus unemployment? And unemployment's based off of what you made last year. And this is the whole problem with them getting all of these systems up to date, is they got to figure out a way to determine what your employment eligibility is, because they have their calculation from people getting paid on a W-2. There is no calculation for someone coming off of Schedule C because previously weren't eligible for unemployment. So they have to figure that out. So there's going to be a delay from when you get your money, regardless of which program you're going into. The idea that all of a sudden we're all applying, we're all getting money. The EIDL application says you could get money within 3 days. And I don't see anybody getting money in 3 days. But that's because the SBA is overwhelmed with applications. And oh yeah, by the way, there are people who are working from home too. And this is a huge mess. So regardless of what you're doing in this situation, please have patience with the system. We all have to. And as I said in my prior podcast, if you're going for the PPP, boy, it was a rush on Friday. And there's still no answers. And basically our applications aren't in. So it feels crazy. It feels super nuts right now. We all feel like it's toilet paper all over again. And whether or not that's for a good reason because the program will actually run out of money, we don't know. But hopefully this helps people with some of their decision making on what's the best thing for them and their business, especially small business. And if you're a self-employed contractor, you have these different options. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully pass it along to anyone else that you think it might help them make a better decision about how we're going to get benefits and which benefits we get. Be patient with actually getting all these benefits. I know that sucks for a lot of people, a lot of small business owners. They're laying people off literally because they don't have the cash to pay them. And that sucks, and I feel for you. But you can get the loan. If you're eligible for the PPP loan and you've already laid your people off, they can get unemployment for the time that they were laid off. As long as once you get the loan, you pay them for the next 8 weeks. Once you get your money, then you'll be okay, and that loan will be able to be forgiven, assuming you have the same base total number of employees as you did a year ago. So hopefully this helps people with their decision making. This is more complicated than it needs to be, but hopefully this helps show you how different pieces of it total kind of the same thing. And the idea is not to be greedy here. The idea is to just make the best decision for your small business going forward, as I expect that this, we're just at the beginning of this. We're in quarantine right now. We don't know how long this is going to last. The uncertainty of that situation has made it difficult for all of us to make the best business decisions for us. For some of us business owners, this is an easy decision. If you're still operating, obviously the PPP makes the most sense. If you're not operating, it becomes a question of when will you be operating again? Does it make sense to bring all your people back? Or does it make sense to get, hey, 10K free from the EIDL? I'll tell you what doesn't make sense: to do nothing. So don't do nothing. Figure out which one of these programs is the best for you. If you've got a specific situation and you want to post it up, put it on our Facebook page. I'll try and get to it at some point this weekend. I got to go back to filling out personal financial statements right now, and then I'm going to do another podcast for people who are actually choosing the PPP for what you need to do. If you're going to unemployment, you're going to go to your state unemployment office. If you're choosing the EIDL, you will go to the SBA website. That is done through the SBA directly, not through your bank. So you apply directly on the SBA website. If you're doing unemployment, you're going to go to your state unemployment office. Most unemployment offices are not ready yet to help independent contractors and the self-employed because they're trying to figure out how that system works. Be patient with them. Eventually they will be. And I know this is hard for everybody, but this is the situation we're all in, so hopefully we can make the most of it. If this helped you, please pass it along to anyone else. Please go like us on Facebook, subscribe to our thing on our webpage, and pass this along so that everybody can get the information they need to make the best decision for them. Peace and blessings to all of you as we move forward, and thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.